Have you ever wondered what your final thoughts might be when you're standing at the edge of life, looking back over all your years? For many, it's not the mistakes they made that haunt them most. It's the moments they let slip through their fingers, the conversations they never had, the dreams they quietly buried for another day that never came. These regrets don't shout at you in the middle of your busy years. They hide in the shadows, waiting until the house is quiet. The days are slower, and you finally have time to listen. And when they speak, they can pierce deeper than anything else you've ever known. Wisdom Beyond 60, dear everyone. Today I want to take you somewhere few people ever go willingly, inside the minds of those who have already walked decades ahead of us, past all the noise, the goals, the chaos, to a place of raw truth. Here's the thing. When you reach the later chapters of life, the world's definition of success suddenly feels weightless. Awards collect dust. Bank accounts stop mattering. The people who once seemed impossible to live without are often gone. And in that stripped-down silence, what's left are the memories of choices you made and the choices you didn't. For some, it's a warm comfort. They lived fully, loved deeply, spoke honestly. But for others, there's an ache that can't be erased. Not because life was empty, but because it could have been so much more. This isn't about making you feel guilty. It's about giving you a rare gift, a chance to borrow wisdom without paying the price of living through the regret yourself. I've listened to stories from people in their 80s and beyond. Some told them with a bittersweet smile, others with tears they could no longer hold back. Their voices carried the weight of knowing they can't go back and the urgency of wanting you to know what they wish someone had told them when they still had time. We tend to think there's always another chance, another birthday to attend, another vacation to take, another I love you we'll say when the moment feels right. But the truth is, life doesn't schedule warnings. It doesn't give you a calendar reminder before the last opportunity passes. And if you're not paying attention, the years can disappear so quietly that you don't even realize they're gone until you're looking back from the very end. So why should you keep watching? Because what you're about to hear isn't just a list, it's a mirror. Somewhere in the next few minutes, you might see yourself. You might feel that uncomfortable tug in your chest when a story sounds too familiar. When you realize you're already standing at the starting line of a regret someone else is desperate for you to avoid. And that's the moment you get to make a choice. Before we dive in, I want to ask one thing from you. If you find value in hearing the kind of truths that could change the way you live today, please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell. Your support is what keeps Beyond 60 Wisdom alive and motivated to bring you more of these life-changing conversations. Now, let's make this personal. Imagine you're 85 years old, sitting by a window on a quiet afternoon. You're holding a cup of tea. You have all the time in the world to think and no more time to change anything. What would fill your mind more? A, gratitude for the risks you took, the love you gave, and the moments you seized. B, a heavy ache for the chances you missed, the words you never spoke, and the dreams you let drift away? Comment A or B below. Your answer might reveal more about your life today than you realize, and it could be the first step toward making sure your future self has nothing left to regret. One of the clearest truths that comes to light when speaking with those in their 80s is that health and relationships are not just parts of life. They are the foundation. And yet, they are also two things people tend to take for granted the most when they still have them. For many, the first deep regret is realizing they had decades to care for their bodies, but treated health as something to think about later. They remember walking without effort, climbing stairs without thinking, carrying groceries without strain. And they remember slowly losing those abilities because they assumed their strength would always be there. They skipped checkups, put off exercise, and let convenience dictate what they ate. The body does not suddenly collapse in one day. It changes gradually, and because the decline is slow, you barely notice it until you reach the point where simple daily movements require help. What hurts most for those looking back is not just the physical weakness, It's the realization that the window to build a stronger future was wide open in their 50s and 60s, but they let it close. I recall speaking with an older woman who once lived for hiking trails and gardening. She stopped her walks after retiring, told herself frozen dinners were easier, and brushed off her rising blood pressure. Now she moves from one room to another with the help of a walker. It's not the pain, she told me. It's losing my freedom without even noticing I was giving it away. That word freedom comes up often because when your body works, you don't think about it. But when it stops cooperating, every small task becomes a reminder that independence is fragile. The hardest truth is knowing they could have done something to prevent it, and they didn't. Closely tied to health is another kind of loss, one that can't be measured in medical reports. It's the loss of connection. In conversations with people in their 80s, you hear this regret in softer tones, but it carries an equal weight, letting good relationships fade away. This isn't about dramatic betrayals or arguments. It's about the slow, almost invisible drift that happens when no one makes the call, sends the message, or shows up. Life changes. Jobs, moves, raising families. And before you know it, the friend you once spoke to every week is now someone you think about only when a name pops up in an old photo. A cousin you once spent summers with is reduced to a name on a holiday card. The absence doesn't feel sharp at first, it feels like just life. But in the later years, the missing people, the missing stories, and the missing shared laughter feel like an empty space that can't be filled. One man I met, a Navy veteran, told me about his best friend from service days. They had been inseparable, but as life pulled them into different states and responsibilities, their conversations went from weekly to yearly. He always planned to call next week. Then one day, he got the news his friend had passed. He never got to say goodbye, never got to thank him for being like a brother. Even decades later, he kept his friend's old letters in a drawer and reread them, holding on to memories that could have been more if he had only reached out. The truth is, relationships don't vanish in an instant. They fade when we stop nurturing them. You might tell yourself you're just busy or that you'll reconnect later, but time has a way of quietly turning later into never. And unlike material possessions, relationships can't be replaced in the same way. Losing people means losing the part of yourself that only existed in their company, the version of you who laughed until your stomach hurt, who was known without explanation, who felt understood without judgment. For many older adults, the later years bring a strong craving for connection, not just with people, but with the pieces of themselves they lost along the way. In that stillness, they realize the silence between them and someone they cared for was not worth the pride, the busyness, or the hesitation that kept them from picking up the phone. Caregivers often notice that near the end, people speak more about who they miss than about what they accomplished. They remember voices, inside jokes, and the comfort of someone who knew their history without needing it explained. And they wish they had made the effort, even if it was just a short call or a handwritten note. If you're reading this now and someone's name comes to mind, a friend you haven't spoken to in years, a sibling you've lost touch with, a neighbor who once felt like family, don't wait. Send a message today. Call them. Show up if you can. If it's no longer possible because the person has passed or the connection can't be repaired, honor that relationship by building a new one. The point is to choose connection now before time takes away the option. When people in their 80s talk about these regrets, they are not trying to make you feel guilty. They are offering a warning, a gift wrapped in truth. Take care of your body as if your future freedom depends on it, because it does. And take care of your relationships as if your happiness depends on them, because it does. Neither health nor love can be rebuilt overnight, and both will quietly slip away if you don't protect them while you can. So the question is simple but urgent. If you could strengthen just one thing today, your physical health or a meaningful relationship, which would you choose to focus on first? When you talk to people in their 80s about how they spent their lives, a recurring theme emerges, a quiet, almost aching realization that they worked far more than they truly lived. It's not always born out of resentment toward their careers. Many actually enjoyed their work, took pride in their accomplishments, and felt a deep sense of responsibility to provide for their families. But as the years roll by and the noise of daily demands fades, what remains is not the satisfaction of every completed task or the pride of promotions. It is the awareness of moments missed, moments that can never be retrieved. The most poignant stories often come from people who thought they were doing the right thing, telling themselves, "I'm working hard now so I can enjoy life later." Later became the golden promise, but later never quite arrived in the way they imagined. The fishing trips with children were postponed for just one more busy season. Vacations were delayed until the project wrapped up. Family dinners were cut short to answer a phone call or finish a report. And then, in what feels like a blink, the children are grown, the house is quieter, and the opportunities to make those memories have already slipped away. I remember a man named James who built his plumbing business from nothing. For decades, he worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week. His business thrived, his reputation was solid, and he put 3 kids through college without taking on a dollar of debt. Yet when asked what he would change if he could go back, he didn't talk about business decisions. He said, with a long pause, "I missed watching my kids grow up. I gave my time to the world, but didn't save enough for the people who mattered most." His voice carried no anger, just a deep sadness at the trade he had made without realizing its cost. Time has a way of disguising itself as abundant when you are in the middle of life's demands. In your 40s and 50s, you may believe you have decades ahead to take that trip, start that hobby, or sit on the porch with your spouse watching the sunset. But life rarely sends a reminder when those opportunities are about to vanish. One day the calendar is filled with deadlines and commitments, and then suddenly you're looking back, trying to remember when the years passed so quickly. That's the cruelty of this regret. It arrives slowly, almost invisibly, until it's too late to do much about it. Some try to console themselves by saying, "I had to work that hard, I had no choice." And in many cases it's true, responsibilities are real. Bills must be paid, children must be supported, and stability is worth working for. But the regret isn't about the effort, it's about the imbalance. Work swallowed so much of life that living became an afterthought. When asked what they would do differently, older adults rarely say, "I wish I had taken more meetings," or "I wish I had spent more weekends at the office." They talk about the moments of stillness and joy they wish they had prioritized. The slow Sunday breakfasts, the spontaneous road trips, the laughter around the dinner table. What makes this regret especially heavy is that it often doesn't reveal itself until after retirement. People leave their jobs expecting to finally enjoy their free time, only to realize they've forgotten how. They've spent so many years structuring life around productivity that they no longer know what brings them joy outside of work. The hobbies they once loved have faded. The friends they would have shared those experiences with are gone or have moved on. There's an emptiness that no amount of financial security can fill. This is not a call to abandon ambition or to treat work as unimportant. It is a reminder that the hours you give away are the building blocks of your life story. At the end of it all, the currency that matters most isn't money, it's time. And unlike money, you can't earn it back once it's spent. Every day you exchange your hours for something. The question is whether what you're getting in return will matter to you decades from now. One woman told me she set an alarm for herself every Friday evening, not to remind her of a meeting, but to remind her to ask, "What will I remember about this week?" If the answer was only work tasks, she made plans that weekend to change it. She said it helped her start living in the middle of her busy years, not waiting for the elusive later that never comes. For those of us still in the thick of responsibilities, the wisdom from those who have already walked this path is clear. Work hard, yes, but live harder. Protect your time for the people and experiences that will outlast your career. Success without presence feels hollow when you look back. And when the emails have stopped, when no one asks for your expertise anymore, and when your days are fully your own, you'll want to look around and see a life rich with memories, not just accomplishments. So ask yourself today, if you keep living exactly as you are now, will your future self thank you for how you spent your time, or wish you had done it differently? Among all the regrets people share late in life, there is one that often carries a quieter but heavier weight: the words they never spoke. For many, the memories that return most vividly are not the arguments or the sharp exchanges they wish they could take back, but the moments of silence that stretched too long. The unspoken, "I love you," that lingered in the heart but never passed the lips. The apology they rehearsed in their minds but never delivered. The gratitude they felt deeply yet assumed was understood. At the time, silence seemed harmless, even wise. But in hindsight, it became the loudest absence of all. For much of the older generation, vulnerability was seen as a risk, something that could be misunderstood or even exploited. They were raised to believe that strong people keep their feelings to themselves, that affection is shown through actions rather than words. And while there is truth in the value of quiet gestures, there is also a cost, because not everything can be understood without being spoken. The heart may hold love, forgiveness, and appreciation, but unless those things are expressed, they can disappear with the moment, leaving both people poorer for it. I once spoke with a man named George who had been married to his wife Margaret for nearly 60 years. When she passed, he found himself talking to her photograph every evening. He would tell her about his day, about the memories they shared, about how much he missed her. "I'm saying it all now," he told me, "but I wish I had said it when she was here to hear it." His voice broke not from guilt over anything he had done, but from the realization that he had let too many days go by, assuming she already knew how much she meant to him. This regret doesn't come crashing in like a wave. It arrives slowly, in the quiet moments when there's no one left to hear the words. It's the letter left unwritten in the desk drawer, the phone call you planned to make but put off until tomorrow, and then tomorrow never came. The hug you cut short because you were distracted or in a hurry. And over the years, these missed chances to connect stack up, creating an invisible distance that may never be bridged. In the final chapters of life, people don't ask to see their trophies or balance sheets. They ask for faces. They want to hear the voices of their children, their siblings, their friends from long ago. They remember the stories they never shared, the truths they kept locked away, the apologies they meant to give but postponed. Many realized too late that withholding their feelings didn't protect them. It deprived them and the people they loved of moments of warmth and healing. It's easy to convince ourselves there will be another opportunity. We think we'll say thank you when the timing is better, or that we'll share our pride and love when the moment feels right. But the reality is that life rarely offers perfect timing. People move, drift apart, or leave this world without warning. And once the moment is gone, so is the chance to speak into it. The beauty and the challenge of expressing feelings is that it requires us to be present and a little brave. It's opening the door to let someone see what's inside your heart. And while it may feel awkward or even unnecessary at the time, the truth is that almost no one reaches the end of life wishing they had been quieter about their love or gratitude. The regrets come from holding back, from letting pride or discomfort dictate silence. Even small expressions can have an enormous impact. A sincere compliment can lift someone's entire day. A simple "I'm sorry" can mend a rift that's been silently widening for years. Saying "I'm proud of you" can give someone strength they didn't know they needed. These moments don't have to be grand gestures, they just have to be real. And the more you make them a habit, the more natural they become, until expressing love, appreciation, or forgiveness is as much a part of your life as breathing. If there's someone in your life you've been meaning to reach out to, someone you've been thinking about but haven't called, consider this your sign. Don't wait for the perfect words. Don't wait for the right day. Just speak. Tell them what you've been holding in. Not because you expect something in return, but because the simple act of saying it will free you from the weight of wondering, what if? In the end, the choice is simple. Carry your unspoken words with you until they become regrets, or release them now and let them become memories. One path will leave you with questions that can never be answered. The other will leave you knowing you said what mattered when you had the chance. And that knowledge is worth more than anything you could ever keep to yourself. By the time someone reaches their 80s, they have carried a lifetime of experiences, moments of triumph, seasons of struggle, and countless days of simply moving forward. Yet one of the most piercing realizations many share is not about what the world did to them, but about how they treated themselves along the way. It is the understanding that for decades, they were their own harshest critic. They lived under a constant, invisible pressure to measure up, to be better, to do more, often holding themselves to standards they would never have expected of anyone else. This regret rarely arrives with the suddenness of a single event. It builds slowly, woven into the background of daily life. It's in the way someone dismisses their own accomplishments because they weren't big enough. It's in the voice that says, "You should have done more," even when they've already given everything they had. Over time, that voice shapes the way a person sees themselves until self-compassion feels like a foreign language. Only in the later years, with more time to reflect, do they realize how much joy, peace, and confidence they lost by refusing to be kind to themselves. Margaret, an 86-year-old grandmother, once shared that she had spent decades convinced she wasn't a good enough mother. She would replay moments when the house wasn't as tidy as she thought it should be, when she couldn't afford certain things for her children, when she lost her temper on a hard day. She carried those memories as proof of her own shortcomings. But now, looking back, she sees that she did everything she could with the resources she had, and that her children grew up loved, supported, and safe. "I should have given myself more grace," she said quietly, "because I was doing my best all along." Part of the reason this regret is so common is that our culture often celebrates constant striving and perfectionism. We are taught to equate our worth with our productivity, our image, and our achievements. Rest is seen as laziness. Mistakes are treated as failures rather than part of being human. And so, people learn to push themselves harder and harder, believing that once they arrive at some undefined standard of success, they will finally feel good enough. For many, that moment never comes. In hindsight, the imperfections that once caused embarrassment or shame often become unimportant, even endearing. The things that truly matter are rarely the flawless moments. They are the connections built, the kindness shown, the resilience displayed in times of hardship. But it can take a lifetime to realize that the harsh inner voice was wrong all along, that their worth was never dependent on perfection. What makes this regret especially painful is the awareness of time lost. Years spent doubting themselves, downplaying their achievements, or chasing an unattainable ideal instead of enjoying what was already in front of them. That constant inner criticism didn't make them better, it simply made the journey heavier. And by the time they begin to see their own value clearly, they have already walked most of the path. The good news is that this realization, while difficult, can also be transformative. It opens the door to living differently, no matter how many years have passed. Learning to speak to yourself with the same kindness you offer others is not a weakness, it's an act of strength. It's acknowledging that mistakes don't erase the good you've done, that rest is not wasted time, and that your value is not up for negotiation. Some people find it helpful to ask themselves a simple question when their inner critic starts to speak. Would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, then why say it to yourself? Others start small, by celebrating the effort they put in rather than only the outcome. Over time, these small acts of self-kindness can undo years of self-judgment. The wisdom from those who have lived through this regret is clear. Life is too short to spend it as your own enemy. Perfection is not the point. You will make mistakes, fall short, and take detours. But none of that erases the good you bring to the world. The peace you will want most at the end of your life will come not from meeting every expectation, but from knowing you treated yourself with gentleness and honesty along the way. If you start practicing that now, you may find that your life feels lighter, richer, and more meaningful. Not because the challenges disappear, but because you are no longer carrying them with the extra weight of your own judgment. And when you reach those final chapters, you will be able to look back with the quiet satisfaction of someone who was not only kind to others, but also to themselves. Looking back at the wisdom shared by those who have already walked much further down life's road, a clear truth emerges. Our deepest regrets rarely come from the things we did, but from the chances we didn't take. It's the health we neglected when we still had strength, the friendships we let slip away while thinking there would always be time, the years we traded entirely for work while forgetting to live, the feelings we kept locked inside, the kindness we denied ourselves, and the dreams we left waiting for a perfect moment that never came. These regrets aren't meant to weigh us down, but to wake us up. They are reminders that life is not as long as we imagine, and that what truly matters is how we spend the time we are given right now. The most powerful lesson here is simple but urgent. Time will not wait for us to be ready. If there is a change you've been meaning to make, a person you've been meaning to call, a word you've been holding back, or a dream you've been postponing, start today. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You need only the willingness to take the first step. Caring for your body now means protecting your freedom later. Reaching out to someone now can rekindle a connection that warms the rest of your years. Allowing yourself grace can make your days lighter, and daring to chase a dream can fill your life with joy that no amount of waiting could have given you. So how do you apply this right now? Start small, but start. Take a walk today, even if it's just around the block. Pick up the phone and call someone you've missed. Write down one thing you're proud of yourself for, no matter how small, and read it back to yourself. Choose one dream you've shelved and find a way to take a step toward it before the week ends. These actions may seem simple, but they are how we turn someday into today, and how we ensure that when we reach the end, our hearts are full of gratitude instead of what-ifs. If you felt something stir inside you while listening to these reflections, I invite you to stay connected with us. If you found this video meaningful, if it brought you comfort or inspiration, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what resonated with you, what you've learned, and even what you hope to see in future videos. At Beyond 60 Wisdom, we read every comment, and your words give us the motivation to keep creating heartfelt content for you. Let's keep this conversation going, like friends sitting together and sharing life's lessons each day. Thank you, truly and deeply, for being here with us. Your time is precious, and it means so much that you chose to spend it with us.